Hello YouTubers, now part 2, and what we're going to look at today is brake lines, copper brake lines, and basically how to make them. See, there's one over there and one here. Now, first thing we need to decide is how far we're going with this. I'm going to go with the straight, so I'm going to use a few inches on both sides. So the first thing I'm going to do is crimp this and cut it. And the reason why I like to crimp it is just to stop all the fluid from coming out. So I'm going to get some vice grips and pinch that pipe. Now I'm going to try and do this as I'm filming. I don't know how well it's going to go. Not very. Let's try and do it again. Now, make sure it's fully crimped. Now that's fully crimped. What I'm going to do now is just going to cut it about here, then take this off and make my new pipe from the actual line of this. Now, as we can see, I've just cut it off here and I've released it from here, which can be quite difficult because these can be seized well in, but lucky enough this one came off quite easy. So we're going to go upstairs now and we're going to make a new one of these, and I'll show you obviously how to do it and reinstall it. They're very simple. You just need very, well, the tools you need aren't particularly that expensive. And nice easy job to do yourself. Just a couple of things you need to know and we're going to go through it. So yeah, let's crack on. First thing you need to make sure is whichever connection you've got, make sure it's right that's going into your car. So this one's going into the flexible hose. I've tried it so I know it's correct. Next thing you need to know if it's a male or a female end. Now this one is a male end because it's basically bent, and a female end is the other way. So a female end is chamfered in and a male end, you could say, chamfered out. So that's important to know because if you get the wrong end it's going to leak. So one end we need a male end. Now the other end I'm going to connect this to the car. So this is going to connect to the old pipe. So I need on the old pipe on the car, which I'll show when we get downstairs, I need a male end, and on this I need a female end. So on one end I need a male, the other end I need a female. That means when it connects to the pipe in the car, it's going to no leaks, we're going to have no worries. So that's basically all you really need to know, is what ends you've got and just make sure you have the right connections, and after that it's fairly straightforward. Next thing you need to do is buy some copper hose. Again, very, very cheap. Stretch it out and basically measure now how much you need. So I'm just going to measure from the bend, twist it like that. You can see that. So I know that there is fine. Keep an eye on that little mark there. Should have got that out ready. So we just go down there. Right, now this is another important thing. You need to make sure you have a pipe cutter. You can't just cut this with pliers because you'll just crimp the end in. That's no good. We need the end to be round. So you just get these little, now when you buy a brake cutting a brake pipe kit, you should get these little cutters with it, and it's just very simple. Put it in, twist it, put it around, twist it, and eventually it'll go through. Just twist, and eventually it's going to come off. There we go. Now, so we have our little pipe. Now basically what we need to do is just follow the bend as much as we can. Now you don't have to be that precise, to be fair, but you want to get it kind of right. So we have now our bend in it. Now what we need to do, we don't need so much of an aggressive bend, but we can kind of play around that once in the car. We have a rough idea of the shape now. Now one thing people do forget to do is you want to make sure your connection's on first. Now it's not too bad once you've got one end open, but if you've crimped both ends and you haven't got your connections in, well then you have to start all over again. So make sure your connection's in. I don't need to on this particular one at first because I'm doing this end and we have an open end. Now there's loads of different types of brake making tools. This is the one I happen to have. Very simple. This one works, so you can basically work it on the car. You can get some that works in a vise, but obviously they're no good when you need to work in the car. So basically what you do is, on one end you stick your end through, it's a flaring tool, that's the word I was looking for. So you stick the end through that you need to flare, so it sticks all the way through on this particular one. This then goes in this little screw just to give you your exact how far you need it sticking out. So when I screw this in, you'll see it push the pipe out this end. So it's pushing the pipe out now. I get a 10mm spanner and just screw these fellas down, just like that. So that clamps it basically in then. So you can see, clamp and clamp. Now remove this. I can remove that, and now I know that there is just enough pipe sticking through, because basically what this does is this slides down the tube and it just allows the bit at the end just to have enough to flare out. Now on this particular flaring tool you've got two ends, you've got a male and a female end. Now this is where I say it's important, and what you have to do if you do a female flare, you have to use both ends. If you do a male flare, you only have to use one end, and it's important you know which one you've got. And if you're unsure, if you get the original connection and you fit it in, you'll see, like on this one for example, and the camera's going to pick this up, this doesn't sit into it, so we know that's the wrong end. But if you turn it around, we can see that sits into it, so we know that this is the right end. This is the end to make the male, and this is the end to make the female. And it's as simple as this. You screw this in, and you get your spanner, and you just turn. It's as simple as that until it goes all the way down. Now, it's simple as that. Like I said, some of these you can get different tools. This one I personally find the easiest ones to use. There's others out there that they're a bit tricky. So just now release these two clamps and let's see what end we have. Just release these two bolts, slide this out, release it a bit more, and as we can see, if you can see that, but we have a male end, which is the same as what came out, which is good. So I can now, it's important now to put this in. I might have to bend this back a slight bit just to get it over the bend. Now it's now bent in, and it's important to get it the right way. Now this next thing is important. This is what we have to put this in first, and we have to remember to put this in. Now I need to make, well, it doesn't really matter if I make a female or male end, but whatever end I make on here, I have to make the opposite end on the car. I'm going to make a female end just to show you the stage 2 to actually making a female end. But like I said, it is important to put this fella on first. So same thing again, put this in. As you can see, it slides all the way out, but obviously that's too much. And then just loosely screw these two down. And like I said, this then goes in, and this, well, I put that in too far. Slide out a little bit. This will push the pipe out to give me the perfect, you can actually see, I don't know if it's coming through there, but that pipe is now pushing out. So we know that's all the way to the end of the block, but it's giving us enough to flare. So again, same thing, tighten these two. Make sure these are good and tight, because if they're not tight, it can slide out of the block and you don't get a proper connection. And the last thing you want is leaky pipes, especially where these are, because these are under the tank in the car, which is a nightmare obviously. So what I'm going to do again, I'm going to make the male end first. So you screw this end in and then tighten it all the way until it stops, and you can actually feel that's obviously quite tight. Obviously when you're doing it you'll feel it. Now that's done. I'll do it now. Now undo it. And all I'm doing is turning it around and putting this end in until it makes the female end. Now, it is as simple as that to make brake lines. So we just screw that out, lift it around, screw this. And like I said, it is important to put these connections on. The amount of times I've made brake lines and forgot to put the connections on isn't even funny. Now, hopefully this is coming through on camera, but that is now a female end. So when I make the male end in the car, you can actually see that fits into each other. So that is my brake line, simple as that. Now obviously on some other cars they might be longer, because you know this obviously I don't need a particularly long connection. But one thing I will say is you want to make sure when you put it together you want to pump the brakes and just make sure the brakes, nothing's leaking, because like I said, for a start this is under the tank. If I put the tank on and then test it, well then I'm going to be in trouble. So it just depends basically where it is in your car. But look, it's as simple as that. With very simple tools, a couple of spanners, you can make your own brake lines. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit this in the car. I'm going to do on the car, which I'm not going to film because it's going to be too difficult, but I'm going to make the male end on the car with this tool, and then I'll fit this. I'll turn the camera back on to show you when it's actually fitted. Yeah. So YouTubers, as you can see, it's in. Now what I've done is I've actually bled this one, so I'm going to do one at a time and completely bleed it. And we've kept pressure on the pedal just to make sure if there's any leaks or anything here, because like I said, you want to make sure there's no leaks. And there isn't any leaks, so that's good. That means this one is done. We've got to go do the far one, which is there, and then we can put the tank back on. But at the minute, we're looking good. Everything's clipped back into place. No leaks. One more pipe to go. Sorted. Now as you can see, we're both done on both sides, 1 and 2. My next problem is trying to get these snapped bolts out. You see there's one over there too. That's going to be the next issue. Don't know exactly how I'm going to do it yet, but it shouldn't be too bad even when I do it, because I should be able to put a bolt straight down and have a nut and bolt on. That's what I'm hoping, but again, I'm not 100% sure yet. So yeah, there we go. I'm going to call this for part 2. I know these are quite short, but at least you get the idea. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with these bolts. So look, I hope it helps. Thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to get your hands dirty. See you for the next one.